welcome to the January the 9th, 1996 taping of It Happened in Grand Prairie. As we bring you our history tape number 267, and we are spotlighting the history of the Grand Prairie City Council of PTAs, who recently celebrated with a wonderful meeting their 50th anniversary. They began in 1945, and we just wish that we could bring you each and every one of the past presidents to be able to document that history. However, we're going to read the names of some that have been president of the City Council of PTAs and their year, and several of these are deceased. But we're going to begin our interview with the longest reigning president, past president of the City Council of PTAs in just a few minutes. So if you would be with us, first of all, the founding president was Mrs. L.A. Roberts in 1945 and 46. Mrs. Ernest Lee, 46-47. Mrs. W.C. Hardman, 47-48. Mrs. R.J. Kiesler, 48 and 49. And that brings us to the present time to Mrs. L.L. Bankhead Jewell, who is the reigning long-time past president of the City Council of PTAs. And Jewell, we want to welcome you to the set today, my dear.
Thank you.
We're just so pleased to have you with us. And next we have Louise Vance, Mrs. Dorman Vance, who was president 2 different times, and they were dates that were separated, and she's going to give her dates when we do her interview. And Louise, we're glad to have you with us, my dear.
Thank you.
And next we have Mrs. Calvin McCoy, Jean McCoy, who followed Louise Vance in the chair as president of the City Council of PTAs. And the spotlight on history is very exciting because a composition of all of the ladies that have served as president of that council have been momentous in the things that they have accomplished for children and youth. So we're going to start our interview in this spotlight with Mrs. Bankhead. Jewell, we're very excited to have you with us today, and we are very proud of the record that you have had in Grand Prairie. And since you served as the president in 1949 and 50, would you tell us a little bit about what brought you to Grand Prairie, Texas? First of all, you and Mr. Bankhead.
We came to work at North American.
All right.
My husband did.
Uh-huh.
And we came in 43.
All right.
And I was always interested in my child and her work at school.
And you would give her name?
Joy.
All
Joy.
right.
And she started school at Crockett, and when she did, I got interested in her schoolwork, and then it was kind of hard to get people to accept jobs in PTA.
Yes.
So I didn't know what I was getting into, and I accepted. The first job I ever had in PTA was the president.
Well, how exciting.
And Mr. Woods was principal.
Yes.
And he was wonderful to work with.
Yes.
And so I was president of Crockett PTA. I believe that was in 47 and 49. I had 2 terms.
Had 2 terms then.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And before I got out of that PTA, they wanted to build a junior high school.
Okay.
And so I, with some of the other PTA officials, got a petition for the Lee Junior High School
All right.
and presented it to the Board of Trustees.
All right.
And they voted to build the junior high school.
All right, now the South Side School that was located near the campus of Crockett and also the
It was
Legion.
combined.
It was combined.
It combined the PTA, the school and the PTA. It was I believe the 5th and 6th grades.
Okay, at Southside.
Uh-huh.
All right, and so really Southside became Lee Junior High then after you got the petition signed and you got the building built?
No.
Did you leave Southside
no, it was
still?
It was still Crockett, under Crockett.
Okay.
And oh, you mean the 6th grade? Yes, the 6th grade. I can't remember if the 5th grade was still over there or not.
All right, when Lee Junior High was built, did you go on over to Lee with Joy?
Yes.
Do you remember the principal and what'd you do at Lee?
Yes. Let me see. I can't remember. He had a son named Lindsay.
Yes.
What was his name?
Was it Mr. Fuller?
No.
No, before
No.
Mr. Fuller. All right.
I can't remember.
All right. Joe Hendricks?
No.
No, he
Before
wasn't.
that.
All right, we're working on it. All right, and but you did. What office did you hold in the PTA at Lee?
I was president.
And you became president at Lee. All right. And when Joy graduated from Lee and went on to high school, of course, she went to the campus of Grand Prairie High School. Was it at the old red building or the new building that's out on the hill on High School Drive?
No, she was able to go. Her first year in high school was in the new building.
In the new building. Okay. All right. And then you went on to the high school. Were you president of the high school?
Yes. I was president of the high school. I can't remember if it was the first year. No, it wasn't the first year. I believe it was the last year my daughter was in high school
That you were president of the high school PTA.
But let's retract just a little bit. Now, when I left Crockett PTA, that was when, instead of being president of the first year at junior high, I was president of city council.
All right. In between all of those things, you became
Yes.
president of the city council, and that's in the magic year then that we have assigned to you of 49 and 50.
Right.
All right.
And then, after that, I became president of junior high.
Of junior high. All right. When you were president of the city council of PTAs, how many schools were involved in the council at that time?
Only 4 in high school, 4 grade schools: Travis, Houston, Crockett, and Austin.
In Austin. Those
It's
were the
only-
4 elementaries.
Right.
All right. And
We had no junior high then.
no junior high till
No.
at that time.
No.
That was at the time when you felt like you really needed one. And then after you served all of this, I believe you went on to the 2nd District, which is a 12-county entity. What did you serve in the 2nd District?
Family life.
All right.
And I was in charge of what was it? That's been over 45 years ago.
That's
Ruthie.
been more than 45 years ago, and that was a whole bunch. You had publications and Parent and Family Life?
Right.
Yes.
That's
Did you
right.
ever work on one of their conventions or their?
Oh, yes.
Oh, you did?
See, we had the 2nd District meeting at at high school one year
Oh, you did?
when Ethel Hendricks was president. That
All
was
right.
right after I was, yeah.
Oh, that is wonderful. You set the stage for Ethel, though. So you served on the 2nd District, and then everyone
Right,
came in and
right.
had a convention.
I
Well, that's
helped
wonderful.
her.
Well, you certainly had an illustrious career for the City Council of PTAs, and we're so proud of you, and we're proud that you're represented here today. And we're going to get back with you in just a few minutes after we interview these other 2 wonderful ladies that have been president of the PTAs.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jewel. All right, Ms. Vance, you were next down the line of the ones we could get to be on the show today. Now, in between Mrs. Bankhead and the ones that we wanted to have here, Mrs. O.L. Mathis, she still lives up on College Street. What time she is not staying with her daughters around the circuit, and we couldn't get her. And of course, Mrs. J.B. Hendricks is deceased, and Mrs. Donnelly Blanton, we were not able to find any trace on her, and Mrs. A.E. Turner, we did not find a trace on her, and Ms. W.W. Hendricks is deceased, and Mrs. H.B. Taylor, who was the next president, and we're going to have her on the next time we do a spotlight, has a health appointment today and could not be with us, but she was real sad. She really wanted to be here today. And then after Miss Taylor, of course, I was in the chair, and we're not going to talk about my tenure, and Mrs. Moon, Mrs. W.W. Moon, Mrs. Otis Williams is deceased, Ms. L.J. Raybeck moved to Arlington, and next we have Mrs. D.L. Vance. Ms. Vance, we're glad you filled in this slot for us so that we can get you on the docket. And the first time you served as the president, Mrs. Vance, was 1965-66. You were a mighty young lady to serve as the City Council PTA president.
I was.
Tell us a little bit about Mrs. Vance and what brought her to Grand Prairie and what got her involved in the PTA.
Oh, well, work. I'm kind of dreading following Mrs. Bankhead. She has such good memory over here of all this stuff. But we came to Grand Prairie in '52. The same thing with work. My husband was working night shift at Vaught when my oldest daughter started to Fannin Elementary. And he was constantly being woke up with different calls, during
about
the day
the
when I was gone. So one day he received a call, and the year that Cindy started to school at Fannin, and said, well, this is the nominating committee from Fannin Elementary, and we just wanted to see if your wife would be the preschool chairman. And he said, certainly, she'd be glad to. So that started my involvement with the PTA, and when I came in, I said, what is the preschool chairman? He said, she didn't say. I said, well, I don't know. So I worked it out and had several years of PTA.
Where were you president first?
At Fannin.
At Fannin?
I
Okay.
did real good at preschool chairman, apparently, because they asked me to be the president at Fannin, and I was the president at Fannin 2 years.
All right.
And then, and my son was 3 years old at that. No. My son was 3 years old when I was city council PTA president.
Yes. So where did you go from Fannin?
Fannin, we went to Jefferson.
All right. Were you the president at Jefferson?
I was the president at Jefferson.
Oh my, oh my.
Yes, and then I kind of went backward. Because of John being born, the preschool PTA had kind of come in really, done real
Yes.
good, and they'd come into existence then, and I was president of the preschool PTA.
All right. But in the meantime, you have these two other daughters that
Oh,
you
yeah.
haven't mentioned that are
Oh,
going
yeah.
on up at Jefferson and,
Oh, yeah.
and others.
At one time, I had one in elementary, one in junior high, and one
You
in high
didn't name
school.
them yet.
John was in elementary at that time. Vivian was in junior high,
All
and
right.
Cindy was in high school.
Oh, you had them in all the schools and were president of the preschool PTA.
All right.
All right. And then from Jefferson, did you go on to the high school?
Grand Prairie High School. I
Were you
did.
ever president of that?
Yes, I was.
You have been president of all levels of the PTA, and now you find yourself president of the council.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So
Well,
that made it a little easier. I did have a little insight of what was going on by the time I got to be president of council,
All right.
and thoroughly enjoyed it. Mr. Chambers was our superintendent at that time,
All right.
and we had a real good group. We had a real good
Would you
group.
name some of your officers? Since you happen to
Oh.
have your yearbook with you, with all of the good things in it, do you know some of your officers that served
Well-
with you, or what was the theme of your year, or something you'd like to tell us about your year as City Council PTA president, the first time when it was
the
tough?
first time? Well,
And especially when John was only 3 years old. Did you take him to the council meetings?
oh, he went to a lot of council meetings, and then
I
I had
see.
good friends, and they said, they felt sorry for me. They said,
Yes,
we'll help take care of him. Well, let's see. some of my officers, I know Jean McCoy was my officer because she served as the president the next year.
The next year after you did.
And I know Hazel Bland always helped. Peggy Ellard always helped. Ruthie always helped. I had a good board, but Ruthie, I can't tell you who all they are.
Well, that's good.
And I can't find them.
All right. Did Mr. Vance allow you to go to the state conventions and to the
yeah.
2nd District PTA that year, or did he
Yeah.
pretty much have a rein-in on
no.
you?
Oh,
I
no.
see.
He volunteered me for that. So after that, I told him, I'm on my own. I'm going to everything. I got involved. And we, at that time, the PTA presidents were expected to go to the conventions and to the conferences and to take leadership courses, to take parliamentary law courses. And till this day, you can almost spot a PTA president, a past president, if you're in any kind of meeting, because PTA insisted that you know parliamentary law, which a lot of the clubs now don't really pay that much attention to.
Yes.
So
That was
we
good.
learned a lot.
That was good educational
It was very
experience
good
for you,
education.
wasn't it?
Throughout your entire life, really. And I do have some officers. Looky there, Ms.
Well,
Earl.
while we have you front and center, and since you served 2 different times, would you like to go to your next yearbook, because you had another tenure down in 1970 and 71.
Yes, I
and
did.
we want to talk about both of those years while we have you on this set. We may not ever get you back out.
That's
here again.
right. Jean's a good speaker. She may just get started and not stop, right?
Whatever on earth possessed you to come back and be president of the City Council of PTAs this second time when you came back after you'd already been out of it for 5 or 6 years?
Well, I tell you what happened that time. They told me they didn't have anyone else. No one else would take it, but I found out later that they hadn't really asked that many other people. And I know better than that now, but back then I wasn't quite so educated.
You fell
and
for that,
I
didn't you?
fell for it, and I said, okay, I'll be glad to. We sure don't want the City Council PTA falling on its face.
Yes.
So, I said yes, and here I
So that was in
went again.
70 and 71. Can you
Yes.
tell us some of the people that worked
Oh,
with you
yeah,
in
I sure
70 or
can.
71?
I can remember that a little better than I could. Mary Nell Whitty, who's deceased.
Yes.
And Mary Nell worked at the Methodist Church for years, a precious person. She was vice president that year.
Yes.
Ms. W.R. Penwell, Lou Anderson, Sue Steele, Hazel Bland, B.B. Bingham, Helen Thorpe, and of course Jean McCoy was my parliamentarian, and she kept me all straight because all the time I was going to those parliamentary law courses, Jean was too.
I see.
So that was just part of my group. I remember that year that we did dedicate the yearbook to Brother Ernest Duncan,
Yes.
who was with Fairview Baptist Church then, and
Oh, such a splendid
We-
man.
thanked a lot of him and was real pleased to see him receive the dedication of our yearbook that year.
Yes. Are you still working in PTA with kids or anything? Or are you in the post PTA or?
I'm in the post PTA.
Yeah, I just thought maybe you might be in the post PTA.
Thank you,
Yes.
Ruthie.
That's a good spot. So you've been through all. Have you ever been president of post PTA?
No, I've missed
Well,
that.
that's the only slot that she has not filled. So now we know who we can nominate for the
Oh.
president of the post PTA sometime in the future.
Oh.
Then she will have been president of every level that we have in the city. Well, Louise, I think you really should get a Purple Heart. Of course, PTA colors are blue and gold. We ought to give you a blue and gold banner or something for being president of all of those things, plus coming back and taking the city council presidency the second time. But now, we're going to let you rest a minute.
Thank you.
And then we're going to
We'll
get to
let Jean.
Jean McCoy. Now, Ms. Jean. President of the City Council of PTAs, 1966 and 67. You just served 1 year.
That's all.
Oh, Jean, you were such a wonderful, wonderful president. Tell us what brought you to Grand Prairie, Texas, other than the fact that probably your husband was born here. How did you find him?
No, my husband was born in Chalk Hill area.
Yes.
And lived in Dallas, and I came from the country into Dallas to go to beauty school in 1947, and we married in 49. In 1950, we moved to Grand Prairie and then opened up our own business in 1951. So that's what put me here.
All right. Who got you started in the PTA?
Guess who? Miss Ruthie Jackson. My husband thought that Ruthie could do no wrong and thought she hung the moon, and every time Ruthie says, Jean, you can do it, he would say, if Ruthie says you can do it, you can do it. So that's it.
And tell us where you first started. You got your first experience in the PTA, the first office you held.
Milam Preschool.
Milam Preschool.
Oh, yeah.
And were you ever president of the Milam Preschool?
Yes, I was.
Oh my! And then from Milam, where did you go?
Went to,
Lee.
yeah, I went from Milam Preschool to Milam Elementary.
Elementary. Okay.
Right.
All right.
And I was president there. And then to Jackson Junior High, and then South Grand Prairie High School, and City Council along in there somewhere.
All right. Now, we'd like for you to name your children that you followed through all of these, and you were room mother, and you baked cookies and cupcakes and all of this stuff for. Would you do that?
Okay, I have a son named Larry, who is the oldest, and he started out in Milam School, but he graduated from Grand Prairie High School. Then I have Melanie, who started out in Milam School, and Brenda also started out there, and they both graduated from South Grand Prairie.
Because the line came along there and sent them in a different direction than it did Larry.
Right.
Yeah, so you have a mixture of gophers and warriors
Right.
in your school bloodline, I'll put it that way. That is
True.
wonderful. All right, now of all of these schools where you've gone on now to Jackson, were you president at Jackson?
Yes.
And were you president at South?
Yes.
And then you were president of City Council in the magic year of 1966-67. Tell us some of the people that served with you, the theme of your year, or anything you'd like to say about your tenure as City Council president.
The theme of our year was highlighting educational growth for the American family. And Alta Brown was my vice president. And let's see, Ms. Kenthorpe, Helen, was one of the directors, as was Ms. Ann King also. So some of these that have all been mentioned were on my board too.
Yes.
So I had a good working group, and we had lots of fun along with working hard.
Was Mr. Chambers still the superintendent?
Yes, he was.
Mr. Chambers stayed with us a long time. He was a very fine man. Okay, anything that you remember about your year as City Council PTA president? Did you go to the state convention?
Yes, we went to the state convention.
Yes.
I'm not sure if it was in Austin or Corpus Christi, but went both years. It was either mine or Louise's year
Yes.
that we went to Corpus, and then we went to Austin also. And I've been to several state conventions.
Was this a learning experience to go to the state convention?
Oh, you bet it was. I really got my education in PTA.
Yes. Of all of the things that you've ever accomplished in the PTA, what was your favorite spot that you were president?
You know, I really liked all of it.
You did?
Yeah, I felt like when I first started out in the elementary schools that my children were small then, and I feel like that they liked having their mother around.
Yes.
And at the school at various times. So I guess since that was sort of the beginning, I suppose that's one of the best times, but I enjoyed it all.
Good.
I don't know about when I got to high school, they probably didn't want me there, but I was anyway.
You were there just in case?
Yes.
All right, and I believe you went on to the 2nd District and served there. What did you do at 2nd District?
Well, let's see, I served as vice president, and what was the other one? Mental health chairman.
Yes.
I think I was vice president under Ruthie.
Yes, when I was the district president, I believe you were you were an area vice president at that time. That was an exciting time. Going to 2nd District from the council, what did you find different in going out over the district? Did you have a lot of assignments to do as a vice president?
Well, yes, some. I think I taught a parliamentary procedure course, maybe not parliamentary, but leadership courses, assisted at least in some of them. And there were some things, but it wasn't as much fun as being at home.
Being at home and being a PTA president?
Right.
All right. Well, I think that is a wonderful tenure that all three of you ladies have had. So let's start back over down the line and let's talk with Jewel again. Jewel, I'd like for you to look out into your camera and just talk to the young folks that are out there that may be even thinking about being a PTA president, and let them know how valuable they can be to the community by being a room mother or taking a part in their children's activities by being a PTA involved person.
I do think working in PTA is one of the most rewarding things that anyone can do. I can remember my daughter, I believe, was in junior high, and I had a sick spell, and I had to take out a few things. My daughter said, anything but your PTA.
How wonderful.
And then I knew how much it meant to her. And I think children are so proud of their parents. They may not be that way now, I don't know. Everything is so different.
They were different. Well, I
They were
really
so different.
I think that is wonderful testimonial. And Louise, do you have a testimonial about working with the PTA?
I was just thinking while Miss Bankhead was talking about one little girl that I was constantly at the school and involved, trying to help the teachers, trying to help the children. And one little girl just stayed with me and hung on to me and clung to me. And one day she told me at a party, "I wish you were my mother."
Yes. Because
And
her mother couldn't come to the PTA.
Her mother wasn't involved, and that's always stuck with me. I thought, you know, really
How important it
how
is.
important it is to children that you be involved.
Wonderful. All right, Jean, you have the last shot before I take it.
Well, I think it's wonderful too to work in PTA, and I have a daughter that's following right in my footsteps, and she's at the school every time the doors open. So I guess I taught her well, but I think it's good for us to know what our children are doing and what's going on in the schools, so we can cope with it if we need to.
I want to thank you three ladies very much, and as we close this show, we close it in a different way, but I want to see if our camera can pick this up at Ruthie's camera and get a close-up shot of our recent meeting of all of the past presidents of the City Council of PTAs had their picture made when we had a celebration, and I thought that would be a good way to end this first portion of the show that we have, because many ladies have given many hours, and several fellows have aided and abetted us doing all these things, and I want to thank you all for being with us today as we do that. And this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you that history is as we in the PTA live and do.